Hey, hello, this is Jean from the podcast Thrive Not Survive After Abuse. Yeah, it is so far, it is the number 100. Can you believe it? It's number 100. Yeah, I did my 100th podcast today. When I started this podcast, actually, it's to be honest, it was not really that I wanted to do a podcast. So let me tell you a little bit. Why that is. And I followed some people and their podcast, by the way, and they started to teach you if you want to have your voice heard, you need to find your voice first. And I thought, well, what actually does that mean? Find your voice first. Um, you need to be comfortable around the mic. You need to know what you know and what you don't know, and then you need to find the right subjects for you. And then bit by bit, people might want to listen to your podcast. So don't be so concerned about all the marketing around your podcast, stuff like that. Just start to record them and send them out in the air or however that works, and then see what's going to happen. So I hope some of you, if you just listen for the first time to this podcast, one day you might want to take the time to go back to my first episode, and then hopefully you can hear that quite a bit have changed, and maybe those things were interesting too, and that became it for me. Now it's kind of a habit. So for everyone out there who actually also want to start a podcast, don't be concerned about how many people are following you already. If you have your kind of your central topic or your kind of your central format, start just doing it, right? And then practice make never make perfect, right? That's I think that's not a good saying. Practice make perfect, but practice definitely makes progress, right? So every time you do something, you do it a little bit better. So just a few days ago, someone asked me, "Hey, how's your business going?" And my answer was, "Well, my business is going a little bit better today than it was yesterday, but it will be a little bit worse today than it will be tomorrow." So and that's what life is. That's how I try to love people. I love them a little bit more today than I did love them yesterday, and I will love them today a little bit less than I will love them tomorrow, and so on and so on. So hopefully it's a big milestone, my number 100 podcast, but I will continue this for maybe forever. Maybe you get really tired of me and switch to other podcasts. Maybe I'm going also to some other media. I'm already there, but this is the podcast, and I'm glad that you guys are listening with me. The people who have always been following me, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're new to me, then I bid you very welcome here. So that's it. This is Jean with the podcast Thrive Not Survive After Abuse. And it is not only, of course, for abuse survivors, but I think it's an important group that I address. And if you have been with me for a while, then you know why that is so close to my heart. I think abuse is one of the biggest evil in the world at the moment, and it is strange that after all these years of evolution, if you believe in evolution, I don't, but I believe in that people can evolve, right? So and if you think about how we have evolved technology, brilliant, right? I mean, who would have known that only 150 years ago we could fly through the sky and stuff like that? But if you think about how we treat ourselves, not so good, to be honest, right? If we as a community, as a tribe, if we see the human race as one tribe, and if this would happen in a smaller tribe, and an older man would abuse the younger kid like I was abused, we would never condone that, right? But now we live in this human race where hardly anyone knows anyone on a bigger scale, and all these things can keep happening on a super large scale. And if you don't know how large that scale is, let me do a little trick with you. Every second that I talk to you, one new person on this globe was abused. So every second. So I have been in this one number episode 100. I've been 4 minutes and 34 seconds, and I can keep up with that, of course. So time that times 60 and the 4 minutes. So that is 240 and 30 seconds. So that's 270 new victims only in the 4.5 minutes that I was talking to you. If that's not shocking for you, then I can even make it worse. That is 30 million people every year. 30 million. Just write it down, Try not to miss a zero. 30 million people, that is a 3 with 7 zeros. Yes, that's how it is, right? All right, having said that, that's a little bit of an introduction in, because it's the 100th podcast. It was a really amazing day today because we also have a new president here in the United States. Now, whether you like this man, Mr. Biden, whether you voted for him or not, that is all up to you, of course. That's the beauty of democracy. The beauty of democracy is that we can vote, we can correct our vote if it didn't turn out so well, but we have to also accept the vote. And we have seen the worst of the United States a few days ago, where people who could not accept the voting results, only wanted to get it in a way of violence and so on. It sounds like those people, to me, to be honest, they can knock on my door. I will say the same thing. Are just like small children who didn't get an ice cream when they wanted to have it. Right? I don't think that's another sign that, wow, did we truly evolve as human people? Right? Democracy, as Winston Churchill says, is the most difficult way to rule, not to ruin. That was no pun intended. To rule a country. Right? Democracy is probably the most difficult way and system to rule a country. But it's better than any other alternative. That's what he said. You have to think a little bit about that. Yeah, democracy is really difficult, but it's better than any alternative. And you need to think about it. If we would have lived in any alternative, the people who would have rioted against government would have been way worse off than they are in this democratic system. So, as the great Gandhi says, I would never kill for anyone, but I would die for you to make able to that you can say what you want. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would fight for that all the time, even through this little podcast, that you can say what you have to say, because that's the right in a democracy. But we hope that you do it respectfully. And so we have a new president. Let's see how he's doing well. I have great hopes for him, but that's just a personal opinion, right? Don't be angry with me if you have another opinion. Remember, in 4 years' time, we all have another chance to vote. Mr. Sadhguru, if you have never heard from him, he had a really nice philosophy on that. So if you have never heard of him, Google him and type in voting or democracy. It's a really nice episode. You probably can find it on YouTube. And we share, I say that in all modesty and humbleness, to be honest, but we kind of share the same opinion here, right? All right, that was, on Wednesday, January 20th, a historical day for at least the US. I wanted to do and continue my podcast on the 6 human needs that we all have. I thought it was a little bit more appropriate to spend some time on my number 100 podcast and a little bit on what was going on here in the United States. Tomorrow I will be back with a normal episode of the podcast. We will be talking about why certainty is so important in our life, but also how it could keep us out of success and growth. So the need for certainty is really important to have in our life, but it also can stop us from having success and growth. So stay tuned for that one. I will hear you tomorrow. This was Jean with the podcast Thrive, Not Survive After Abuse. Bye-bye.